our first, the first guest on our podcast, Dave. We are trying to start a little tradition here. So we want to ask you to ask a question to our next guest. Could be anything. So anything that's on your mind. You could ask a question now that you feel like, hey, this is relevant, or maybe completely irrelevant. It's up to you. But we will make sure that we'll ask your question to our next guest. What would your question be?
The thing that's the question I have is a question that's really something I am really thinking about. So I'm very curious what someone else is thinking about. How do you think that the role of sales will evolve in the coming years?
All right, we'll make sure we'll take that question. That's a great question indeed. We'll make sure that we take that question to our next guest.
Wow, that's quite a broad question, isn't it?
Yeah.
I think, I think it's going to continue to be more, I guess, in line with the e-commerce side of things. Travel is not getting any cheaper. Even just driving around, 3 or 4 hours, cost of petrol's up. Time out of the office is just expensive. So I think a salesperson now is going to more traditionally be in the office using tools like Zoom or Teams and phone calls, and a really good e-commerce platform to back them up. I think it's going to be really important. So yeah, I think we'll see a lot less of the traditional sales reps driving around, staying in hotels and having dinners and things. So
Cool.
That's just how it's going to be, I think.
Thanks, Martyn. And you can do the same actually for our next guest. So what will be your question if you can ask one question for our next sales leader on the next episode?
Yeah, I was thinking about along the same lines. How do we bring salespeople into the e-commerce world a bit more? Do we need to upskill them on some of the technology side of things so that they have maybe a bit more involvement in how the e-commerce platform works? Maybe that will help with their buy-in, which then is going to help with their customers' adoption. So, I just wondered if there's time to upskill salespeople on the technology side.
I think the most important thing is keep on informing and keep on educating them. I think that's one, and try to find those I would say tech savvy salespeople that actually, because it's all about technology, and we all know that the number of technologies rises in companies. The amount of tech stack that we are using compared to 5 years ago is enormous. And how do you make sure that those salespeople who normally are quite, I would say, also traditional in how they do their work, how do you get them along into using those solutions, right? And I think that's actually something which you need to find those ambassadors, those tech savvy teams, and bring a sort of a community alive that can actually help. Because I think, and that's my honest belief, is if you have a salesperson telling to another salesperson how to use it, that's much stronger than anybody else telling the story. You need to have those people talking to it themselves and saying, hey guys, this actually works.
And what question would you like us to ask our next guest on your behalf?
Well, I would keep it a bit in the same direction as the question was asked to me, which was more on the technical side. But I would actually want, one of my passions is also to look at the new technology that is happening right now, which is artificial intelligence, AI. So that would be my question. How can AI help the salesperson of the future?
All right, cool. Thanks. We'll definitely ask it.
So, what are your thoughts?
That's an easy one.
That's
or maybe not. Or maybe not.
Yeah, I don't think it's that easy.
I'm kidding.
I'm not going to approach it from the technical point of view because that's really not my strong point. But I would say AI is obviously incredible, and there's some very obvious benefits that it's already having and it will continue to have. I guess my take on that is that I think the approach, the mindset needs to be that people are people and people sell to people and people buy from people. And there needs to be that personal human element needs to be retained in sales as much as it can be. But to disregard technology, AI would be madness. And I think if AI is utilized as a tool to support those really skilled salespeople of the future, sales teams, then I think that's the way to approach it. I would hate to be in a world where I'm being sold to through machine learning. And we're already there, right? In many regards. It's just so impersonal. At best, it's transactional. I think there's the best selling or sales cycle still has a strong element of being relational. And so I guess that would be my comment, or my response to that would be that AI as a support tool for sales going forward without losing that relational and human elements would be the best approach.
Thanks so much, Brent, for your answer to the question of Dick Bos from Philips. And now the turn is to you. So what would be your question for the next guest in our next episode?
Okay, so my question is, if we agree that the required skill set for today's sales leaders is different from 10 or 15 years prior, what does that look like? What does the required skill set for a successful sales leader look like in 10 to 15 years' time from now?
That's a great question. And I think it would be easy just to jump to some technology thing. But my experience, the best salespeople and what their skill sets should be the same. That have always been the same. It's, especially around empathy. The best sales guys are those who understand their customers and their problems. And then they can embrace their, not just what is it going to do for them, but how are you going to make your customer lives easier? And if you can understand their pain points and empathize with them and set up the value case to align to that, that's really the salesmen that I've seen have been the most successful, is that they empathize with the company, with the person in the specific role. So they understand if they're selling to somebody, they're putting they put their job on the line. And so how can you empathize with that and make their life easier, right? And so having that understanding and that way, I think it's not going to change. And I think 10 to 15 years, you'll still need that. Yeah, you'll need some super techie skills to get access to all the data, but really that sales empathy, I think, is most important.
I love that. That will be very comforting also for our audience here. It's difficult enough to fine tune that skill. So you probably need 10 to 15 years to be perfect at it anyway.
Yeah, absolutely.